Just call a friend and ask them to go on FaceTime with you. And whenever you want to speak, look into your camera instead of your screen when talking. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Nadine and this is Legally Diverse, a platform I've set up to help aspiring solicitors reach their goal as quickly as possible whilst keeping you motivated throughout the process. So if you're new, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for clicking on and staying loyal. Today, I'll be covering video interviews. So there's mainly two different types of video interviews. You may get the first type where it's literally just an interview that's conducted on video. So you're still talking to the recruiter or you're talking to the partner or assessor just over video camera. And obviously we've seen a lot of that because of COVID and remote working. That's one type of video interview, but you also have another type of video interview where you are either reading questions on a screen or graduate recruitment have recorded questions for you to answer and you have to record your answer and submit it back. Now, it's the latter of the two that I'll be covering in this video. So if you have one coming up or you just want to prepare ahead of time, stay tuned and we'll get straight into the video. So it's often the case that law firms use video interviews as a screening process along the application process. So you typically get an invitation to a video interview after submitting the application form. Obviously, this doesn't apply to all firms, so make sure you check out the firm you're applying to's recruitment process to see if a video interview is part of their assessment styles. Now, the purpose of a video interview is to obviously ask you questions, but to also see how you come across on camera, how you manage a pressurized environment, because often the video interviews are timed, so you will tend to have a certain amount of time to prepare your answer and then a certain amount of time to record your answer. So they want to see how well you do with handling that pressurized environment. They also want to see how you communicate. So how is it that you get across the answer that you want to give? Can you do that in a clear, structured, and concise manner? So with that being said, I have a couple of tips that I hope will help. Tip number one, be aware of your background. What is going on behind you? Do you have your TV on in the background? Do you have posters that may be slightly questionable? Like, whatever it is, just make sure you know what's going on in your background. And if you can, record in front of a clear white or cream screen. Obviously, this is a YouTube video and not an assessment, so I've got quite a bit going on in my background for aesthetics. But when it comes to your interview, try and keep it as simple as possible. You don't want your interviewer to be distracted at all. You want them to be focused on everything that it is you have to say. You are the most important thing in this video, so get rid of any background distractions. Tip number two, make sure you are in a quiet setting. You don't want to be preparing or recording your video and have someone speaking in the background or have someone playing music in the background. One, because it's distracting for you, but then as I mentioned, it's also distracting for them. So make sure everything around you is also quiet. You also want to make sure that the lighting is right. Lighting is important. You want to make sure they can see all of your facial expressions. They can see your smile and your charisma come through in your answers, your personality, and good lighting is all a part of the way that they perceive you. Tip number three, make sure you set up your computer, your camera, and everything else way ahead of time. You want to make sure that there's no last minute technical difficulties. You want to make sure your Wi-Fi is strong. You want to make sure that your computer or your laptop is charged. And I would definitely say it's advisable to do this on a computer or a laptop, just because then it's easier for you to navigate on the platform that they have released their questions on and then for you to submit it. Tip number four, make sure you dress and look the part. Obviously, because it's a video interview and you're not sitting across from someone or you're not speaking in the camera directly to someone, it can feel a little bit less formal, but you definitely don't want to look less formal. So still make sure you're suited and booted, everything is in the right place, because presentation is key and first impressions is important. The way you present yourself is just as important as what you say. So dress and look the part. Tip number 5, eye contact. Obviously, because it is a pre-recorded video interview, it can feel unnatural because you're not talking to a person, you can't bounce off of them, you can't engage with a person, and you can't necessarily read the room, as they say, which means you have to get comfortable speaking into a camera. And that means looking into the camera when you're speaking. It gives the illusion of eye contact. If I was to look away from the camera when talking, you'd notice. I'll give you an example. This is an example of me looking away from the camera. This is me focusing on myself on the screen and not looking into the camera lens, and therefore not giving you the perceived eye contact that you're looking for. And this is me looking back into the camera. As you can see, there's a difference. So in order to get more comfortable speaking into the camera, make sure you practice. Just call a friend and ask them to go on FaceTime with you. And whenever you want to speak, look into your camera instead of your screen when talking. That's an informal way to practice. And then a more formal way would be for you to actually practice some questions you may think might come up in a video interview. So for example, you might want to practice some essential skills you have that align with the skills they're looking for as a trainee solicitor. Pick 2 or 3 of the skills that they have on their website and record yourself speaking to the camera, demonstrating how you develop that skill and how that will benefit you as a trainee at the firm. So 2 ways to do it, informal and formal. Get comfortable doing both. Tip number 6, body language. Make sure that when you're speaking, you're sitting upright. You don't necessarily want it forward. It's a bit too close for comfort. Sit up straight. Make sure that you are aligned within the middle of the camera frame. Make sure that your head is not cut off at the top. And make sure that you are a good enough distance away from the camera so that they can see any gestures that you do. You want to come across confident. So you don't want to be too close, but you want to be upright and in a comfortable position where they can see everything that they need to see. That's not to say you want to use too many hands, but I hope you get what I mean. I've recently released a post on my Instagram about how to come across confident in your interviews, and I'll put it here. Hopefully that will help in your video interviews as well, because it includes things like smiling and also taking a breath, not speaking too fast because it can make you seem more nervous, and a number of other tools that you can use when you may not feel confident, but will make you look and appear more confident on camera. So check it out and make sure you give me a follow and a like. Tip number 7, for pre-recorded interviews, there are 3 things that I believe are most important, and that is clarity, structure, and content. Clarity goes back to what I was saying about being clear and not speaking too fast, because it shows that you're confident in what you're saying. Content, you want to make sure that you communicate the correct answer to the question they've set. Before you record, they will often give you some time to make some notes so that you can get on paper what it is you want to include in your video response. Use that as an opportunity to jot down key points, so not sentences, but key points that you want to cover. And then 3rd thing is structure. So they understand that you don't have a lot of time to do this, and they understand that you don't have enough time to communicate all of the information that you want to. So structure is important. You may want to use the whole firstly, secondly, thirdly structure. Whatever structure you decide to apply, just make sure that it's there. Tip number 8, prepare. And it's hard to prepare for video interviews because you don't necessarily know the type of questions they're going to ask you. However, you can have a good guess, and you never know, one of your guesses may come up. The type of things that I would prepare for a video interview is 1, as I mentioned, the qualities they look for as a trainee. They want to see how you communicate the qualities that you have. So make sure you research the qualities they're looking for and you prepare answers for it. The second thing that I would prepare is my commercial news stories. So one question that I've had before in a video interview is to tell us about a news story that you've read and what you're interested in. This is an example I've also covered in another one of my YouTube videos, because it really does come up that often. But because commercial awareness is so important, make sure you have those answers prepared. Prepare an example of a news story that you've read And it can just be general, but make sure specific in the sense that it meets the practice areas that the firm concentrates on, or the sectors that they operate in, or the client base that they target. But secondly, also prepare a commercial news story that is directly relevant to the firm because the firm has acted on that deal. It's quite common for commercial awareness to come up in video interviews. So don't shoot yourself in the foot by not preparing an answer to it. And finally, tip number 9. Whilst my tips are generic, the best thing you can always do is get tips specific to the firm that you're applying for. So I'd always advise people to look at the details included on the graduate recruitment website. So do they specify that it is timed? Do they specify that you have one take to record your answer in, or can you record multiple takes before submitting it? And how much questions are asked in the video interview? If these are not found on the internet, don't be scared to reach out to graduate recruitment to ask them if they can provide more information. All they could do is say no. Or reach out to trainees at the firm or future trainees at the firm who have recently done it and ask if they have any pointers, because they will be able to give you advice very specific to the assessment that you have coming up. And that is obviously priceless. So yeah, network. But that's it, guys. Really short and sweet. My tips on how to succeed in a video interview. I really hope they help. Let me know, as always, which ones you found most helpful, which ones I may not have covered. And I hope you have all the confidence in the world with any video interviews you have coming up. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.